So Dave Filoni is currently being canceled by the woke mob. Dave Filoni is currently bending the knee to the woke mob. And the funniest part about all of this is the woke mob doesn't even know that Dave Filoni is one of them. Dave Filoni pushed forward that feminist agenda just as much as anyone else did. We always complain about Kathleen Kennedy. We always complain about Pablo Hidalgo pushing that feminist agenda in the sequel trilogy. But in the Art of the Rise of Skywalker book, that book made it seem like Dave Filoni was pushing forward that agenda more than anyone else in the room. And I already did an entire video on that. If you want to see it, I'll link it in the description. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this in this video, but Dave Filoni played a key role in pushing forward that feminist agenda that was obviously pushed in the sequel trilogy. I'm not even a sequel trilogy hater. I can enjoy the sequel trilogy for what it is, but Dave Filoni is on the side of the woke people. He's on the side of the woke mob. I'm not saying he obsesses over it, but if it comes down to it, he's siding with the woke mob. He does it all the time. So these woke people, these cancel culture people, don't even realize that they're eating one of their own. They do it all the time without realizing it, because the thing is, they don't actually care about Star Wars. They don't actually care about the Bad Batch, which is what they're going after Dave Filoni for. Apparently Dave Filoni whitewashed the Bad Batch somehow. Literally clones of someone who's not white are somehow being whitewashed. It doesn't make any sense, but they don't care. They don't know anything about Star Wars. They do not care about Star Wars. They don't care about the Bad Batch or Dave Filoni. They don't know anything about Dave Filoni, because if they actually did their research, they would come to find out that Dave Filoni is on their side more than anyone else who's actually making good content at Lucasfilm. Out of everyone who's on the John and Dave side of the Civil War, who's on the John and Dave side of Lucasfilm content creation, Dave Filoni is by far the most woke one. And like I said, he's not extremely obsessed with it. He's not going to make all of his stories about identity politics, and we see that with the Bad Batch. We see that with the Clone Wars. He doesn't obsess over it, but like I said, when it comes down to it, he's going to side with the woke people, because while he doesn't like to put it in his content all that much, he does believe in that feminist movement. He does believe in pushing that agenda, and he did it for the sequel trilogy. But Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau always have their ear to the fandom. Jon Favreau even said it in an interview before they write scripts for future seasons of The Mandalorian. They listen to fan feedback. They have their ear to the fandom. They listen to what we're saying. And that's a big reason why The Mandalorian, that's a big reason why Dave Filoni creations are so good. I'm sure Dave Filoni saw the backlash of the sequel trilogy, and he probably thought to himself, maybe let's dial back this feminist agenda a bit. And he hasn't really put it much in other things, maybe sprinkled in here and there, but ultimately he's a good content creator for Star Wars. Ultimately, he has a lot of Star Wars knowledge and he knows how to make good content. But the cancel culture mob is coming after him, and he immediately bends the knee. He immediately gives into the mob because he wants to be accepted by them, because he wants to pander to them, because he thinks that's a big part of the audience. When in reality, it's a very small minority on one side of the fandom, a very small group on one side of the fandom. It's the same size of the people that's complaining about Omega on the other side of the fandom. They think Omega is a Mary Sue after 2 episodes. We don't even have an explanation for Omega yet, and she's already a Mary Sue because she's a female. So we have idiots on one side of the fandom complaining about Omega being a Mary Sue. We have idiots on the other side of the fandom complaining that the Bad Batch is whitewash. Is this real life? Can we not just watch content? Can we not just consume content without being obsessed with identity politics? Because believe it or not, it's not just the woke mob that's complaining about the whitewashing of the Bad Batch that's obsessed with identity politics. It's also the people that's complaining about Omega. And I know that's not going to go over well with a lot of people watching this video right now, but what other reason do you have for saying Omega is a Mary Sue other than that she's a female? It is what it is. You don't like female characters, just admit it. It's not the end of the world. But like I said, Dave Filoni's being canceled by the woke mob. Dave Filoni is bending the knees to the woke mob. That's enough ranting from me. Let's get into the story. This article from Bounding Into Comics says Star Wars activists want to unwhitewash the Bad Batch, claims characters are racist. As first reported by YouTuber Drunk 3PO, Nessa from Project Stardust claims that the clones in the Bad Batch are distinctly whiter than other clones. Not only that, but Nessa also claims that they perform better than the average clone. Yes, that is by design. They have desirable defects, you idiot. Of course they perform better than the average clone. Why do you think they have their own show? Project Stardust Nessa is not the only person who feels this way. The activist cited fellow activist and Tumblr user Clone Hub, who has created the website Unwhitewash the Bad Batch. In fact, much of Nessa's article is based off the opinions of Clone Hub, who claims the Bad Batch has been whitewashed in 2 ways: through their visual and physical design, and through their voice actor. The voice actor that has voiced the clones for over 10 years, maybe even 15 years at this point, he's contributing to the whitewashing of the Bad Batch? Why are you randomly starting to complain about this now when we've had 7 seasons of the Clone Wars? And like I said, when this guy has been voicing the clones for over 10 years, maybe even 15 years at this point. These people are absolutely ridiculous. They just ran out of things to complain about, so they move on to the Bad Batch. Clone Hub continues, D. Bradley Baker is a white man from Colorado who was chosen to play a group of men of color with an ethnically tied dialectical accent. And from here it just gets absolutely ridiculous. I still can't believe I'm reading this, because what they say here is just wild. He adds, if it still isn't clear, Baker being white and doing this accent is equivalent to him being hired to play a black character and then poorly attempting an African-American vernacular English accent, aka black accent, ebonics, etc. It's racist. I don't even know how to break this down. I don't even know what to say other than I can't believe this is real. I can't believe this is real. People complaining about a cartoon show being whitewashed. I can't believe these people have absolutely nothing better to do with their life than complain about a cartoon being whitewashed. It blows my mind. Just go outside. You need to find a hobby, because it can't be good for your health to constantly obsess over the color of people's skins. You're mentally ill. You're not well in the head. You need to find help, and I'm not kidding. This isn't funny. Something is messed up in here. Well, this article goes on for a long time. This person goes on complaining about the color of everyone in the show's skin for a very long time, as you can see. But I really don't have time to read this all. I don't have time to sit here and read all of his critiques of every single shade of skin. That would make for a very boring video, so we're gonna move on to what Lucasfilm's response is to all of this backlash. And by all this backlash, I mean this very idiotic group of fans who feel like starting hashtags on Twitter makes them feel powerful, makes them feel like they're making a difference in the world, which apparently it does, because Lucasfilm and Dave Filoni are bending the knee to them. They're actually changing the Bad Batch because of this backlash. And you know what's crazy? I think it's absolutely ridiculous that there's backlash over the Bad Batch being whitewashed, but at the same time, I think it's equally as ridiculous that people are complaining about Omega being a Mary Sue. But what's even worse than both of those things, what's even worse than people complaining about either of those things, is that Lucasfilm is bending the knee to one side and not bending the knee to the other side. People have been complaining about these female characters being a Mary Sue for years and years, and it's not even just Star Wars, it's Hollywood in general. It does happen. I'm not saying there aren't Mary Sues out there. There's a lot of Mary Sues in Hollywood right now, and even in Star Wars. But why is it that as soon as there's backlash from one side of politics, why is it as soon as there's backlash against white people, it's fixed? But whenever there's backlash against the Mary Sue, whenever there's backlash against the female character being too powerful, there's nothing happens. That's the most ridiculous part out of all of this. And I don't even agree with the Omega backlash. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people are complaining about that when we don't even have an explanation yet. But this article from The Direct says Star Wars whitewash backlash reportedly causes Lucasfilm to change the Bad Batch episodes. Like I said, Lucasfilm and Dave Filoni once again bend the knee to the woke mob. Unlike most of the Republic's military force, this group doesn't exactly resemble the original template of Jango Fett, who debuted in Attack of the Clones, played by Tamora Morrison. As a New Zealander with Scottish, Irish, and Polynesian roots, Morrison has a darker skin color that is represented in the troopers featured through the first 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. Within the team itself, there is some variation in their skin tone. Both Wrecker and Hunter feature more accurate, darker complexions, while Crosshair and Tech have much lighter skin and hair than the average clone. Well, that's definitely by design, and it's not to whitewash the show. It's to show how defective they are, how much of a bad batch of clones they are. It's just to put emphasis on the fact that they're the bad batch. If they just looked like every other clone, if they looked like every other reg, then they wouldn't be much of a bad batch, would they? According to a report from IO9, their Lucasfilm sources have told them that prior to this week's premiere of Star Wars The Bad Batch, changes were made to the animation team's lighting tools to mitigate their effects in the episode's brighter lit settings. Additionally, the report went on to reveal that these changes will also be made to the future episodes of the series. And you'd really be surprised at this point, Lucasfilm has pandered to this mob over and over again, and they get burned over and over again, because no matter how much they pander to this mob, no matter how much they make decisions based on what this mob wants, this mob will never be happy. These people will never be satisfied, and these people don't buy your content in the first place. They don't like Star Wars in the first place. They just like to be outraged. They just like to be angry at something, and they obsess over skin color, so it's perfect. If they actually knew about Star Wars, and they would totally understand why these skin colors are different, why the Bad Batch has some lighter skin tones and some darker, skin tones, it's to emphasize the fact that they're defective, because if you look at Hunter's skin tone, it's actually darker than the average clone. But they don't care about that. They only care about the lighter skin tones and the anti-white agenda that they have. It's so weird to me. It blows my mind that I actually just read that article. Not only does it blow my mind that people are complaining about the whitewashing of the Bad Batch, but it's so crazy that Lucasfilm is pandering to this very small group of people, this very small group of idiots, I should add, that don't even consume Star Wars content in the first place. But let me know what you guys think of Lucasfilm pandering to the woke mob once again. Let me know what you think about them changing the Bad Batch episodes because they think it's whitewash. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both of those links will be in the description. But thank you for watching the video, and hope to see you in the next one.